Borderland is a Massachusetts state park located about 30 miles south of Boston near the towns of Easton and Sharon. The large park is a major recreation area with nearly 1,800 acres and 20 miles of trails. A mansion built in 1910 is the focal point of the park, along with ponds and dense wood trails used by hikers and bikers. Brochures and other information about the park cite a stone potato chamber built in the early 1900s, along with the existence of numerous stone walls that snake around the wooded areas and rocky outcrops. Staff at the park will point out the locations of the stone walls on trail maps and relate that they were all built in historic times, but the only mention of underground stone chambers is the historic potato chamber found behind the mansion. The walls in the park are all located in the woods, with most of them being a few feet high and composed of various sized boulders. Some of them are well made, while others are obviously older, showing less skill in their construction. They form a bizarre, seemingly nonsensical maze in some areas where stone outcrops are found in the center of them.
What evidence is there that they are prehistoric? You've got a line of them that comes in here from another great rock over there, and it sort of almost snakes its way, but then goes in a straight line to a very large rock, and then it comes off at right angles from that large rock, and then snakes its way up to another large rock. It's almost as if somebody is trying to link together certain features within this woodland, you know, as if like, it's almost like energies, you know, snaking their way, hitting something and then bouncing off in a different direction, hitting something else and then bouncing their way off of that. You know, that's the sense that I get from it, because there's no need to incorporate these large stones, other than if they want them to have some function, and at the moment there is no function for them at all. Right, here we are in Borderland State Park near Boston, and we're looking at some of the many stone walls in this region. Here is one example here, which I'm standing on. In the middle of woods, there is no domestic dwellings or anything else around it. No indication that it was for animals, some kind of pen. And it goes up and then tees to the left and to the right and starts to climb a rocky outcrop there, and then suddenly ends. I mean, obviously these stones here, not large, but you know, they're quite substantial, and they're also made of granite, which is something that seems to be indigenous to this area. And of course, exactly as to who created them and when, there are no answers, but the possibility is that they are pre-colonial, and that they were actually constructed by indigenous peoples.
The construction of such stone walls was actively done by farmers in New England starting in the early 1800s, basically as a result of laws requiring fencing for animals and property lines. Many of the stone walls constructed by farmers actually had split rail fences built on top of them to raise the height to required levels. The dense woodlands had been cleared by early farmers, but the deforestation caused so much erosion that the soil became useless for food production or grazing. Eventually, the farms were abandoned, and the forests returned, leaving the walls in their midst. It is asserted by mainstream archaeologists that all the walls and associated stone chambers in New England were built by farmers. But many people, including Jim Vieira, believe that some of the walls that are found nearly everywhere in New England were made by Native American tribes in prehistoric times. It is known and accepted by archaeologists that many prehistoric tribes built stone walls in many other areas, including New York, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and elsewhere. Thus, it's likely that some of the walls constructed in New England were not made by settlers in historic times.
They may have astronomical alignments, they may have some kind of symbolic function, or they may have been for, the keeping in of animals, but they do seem, in some instances, to predate colonial times. Well, to me, these walls do seem to snake from one place to another. Sometimes they're straight, sometimes they're curling, and when they hit a major feature like a large boulder, they seem to turn off in another direction, sometimes at right angles, sometimes just in a slight different trajectory. And this doesn't seem the work of idle hands. This seems as if there is some kind of thought process behind it. Now, what type of mind, I'm not quite sure, but it does not seem to me that this would have been something that some kind of trapper who lived in the woods, maybe in 1600 or 1700, would be doing just to while away his time. Quite clearly, this is the thought process of a society that existed in this area, and I can only assume, therefore, that it probably is Native American in origin.
After we were told that the only stone chamber at Borderland was found behind the mansion, we were somewhat surprised to find at least 3 of them were hidden on the rocky outcrops among the walls. We found the first one by walking a snaking wall that curved up the side of a hill, ending at one of the large rocky outcrops. There, covered by leaves, was the entrance to a stone chamber. It had been blocked or concealed by large rocks placed just inside its entrance. It appeared to descend far into the outcrop. Then, while walking along another wall, we came to a circular wall that had yellow caution tape around it. In the back portion of this circular wall enclosure, there was another stone chamber with the roof propped up with large logs. The interior walls of the chamber were formed by irregular-shaped rocks carefully placed together. The chamber was rounded with a stone slab roof about 4 feet above the floor. It was about 6 foot deep. It was exceedingly well made without mortar and had obviously been excavated recently. Later, we found that at least one other well-formed stone chamber was on top of another stone outcrop located in a different area of the park.
I think the straight walls could be sacred ways, like what you see in the Mayan area. The sacred way would take them to the tombs of their ancestors, the kings, the heads, the ancient chiefs, the sacred people. And you notice that they all lead to high hills, which also may contain tombs underneath.
The idea that all the walls and stone chambers in New England were built in colonial or historic times is simply far-fetched. It's likely that Jim Vieira is correct. Some of these are clearly Native American in origin. Some of them are burial chambers, identical to stone burial chambers found in mounds in the South. However, the long-term occupation of these sites in New England by Native Americans and settlers makes definitive answers on them a nearly insurmountable task.